Okay, now we're going to go over the, this is in the Liber Usualis that I found online. So this is the solemn tone ad libitum. So the key of Do, third line. So at the beginning of, there's no demanding of blessing in the prophecies. This is actually technically it's a tone for lessons on solemn feasts. So there's a couple rules. It can get a little bit complicated. Let's see. So there's the reciting tone is on a Do here. So when you read your text, let's say it's the Noah prophecy, you would start your text on a Do, like it's written here, although you want to ignore the rest of the notes because it's different. Your starting tone and your psalmody tone is on a Do, so it would be Noe vero quinquagentorum esset. Of course, it can be any note relative. It's just in the scale. It's a Do. And this is what's called a mediant here. It's not the end of the sentence, so you can actually choose, since it's not written, you basically ignore this, just look at the text, and you choose where you want to cut it. And I mean, you can only choose so many places. It has to be some place that's logical, like at a comma, but you don't want to make a mediant at every comma. That would be ridiculous. You wouldn't be able to anyway. So only if it's a rather large sentence, you add a mediant in there where there's a comma or where it makes sense. And then you add your final. So the mediant for the solemn tone ad libitum is this right here. So it would be, for example, in principio creavit Deus caelum et terram. Actually, that doesn't make sense. Hold on, I need to find the text. Well, they have a text here. All right. It would be do 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 Deus lux est, if you're listening this, right? Whatever words Deus lux est. So that's the mediant, the metrum is what they call it here. It's in the middle of the phrase, so you would keep going. It wouldn't be at a, I don't know why they have a period here. It doesn't make sense. Because usually it's in the middle of a phrase. And then the final is do 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 sole la fa, which you see right here. Do 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 sole la fa la la vi num et lag. So if you were to apply that to the prophecy of Noah, for this mediant you would do Noe vero quinquagentorum esset annorum genuit semcam et iafet. So the way that you place your mediant in this solemn tone ad libitum is you choose, okay, I want my mediant to finish here. Then you look back at your first tonic accent. So the tonic accent is marked with a little accent on top of the word, unless it's a word that only has two syllables in it, like essent has 2 syllables, so it's never marked because you automatically know the accents on the first syllable because it can never be on the last syllable. And then there's problems. Let's say this was the 2 words before your mediant, then let's say these were your 2 words before the mediant, hominum quod, and let's just pretend there was a comma after and you want to put your mediant here. You'd have to find your previous tonic accent. Well, this is what you would think your previous tonic accent is, hominum, but no, you would have to count back from quad, and usually it would be, this can't be a tonic accent because it's the final, it's the end. You would have to place it here on the num. You can't place it here because you can't have 2 tonic accents next to each other. There's a for sure tonic accent. You can't put 2 tonic accents next to each other. You usually can't put a tonic accent on the final, but it's like a virtual accent you would put here. Hominum quod. So it's not a very good example, but that could be cases like that, where you would have a word that has 3 syllables, the first of which is the tonic accent, and then you have a 1-syllable word. Well, you'd have to do a Dei filias hominu. Oh no, sorry. You would just have to know that this is where your tonic accent is. So the rule is you look for your tonic accent for your syllable that you're targeting, and then you count back 2 syllables from there. So you would start moving the melody on the O. So you do Videntes filii Dei filias hominum quod. If there was a comma here, I know that sounds weird, but that's the way it would be. That's a hard example. If this is where your mediant would be, then you look. Here's my mediant. I want to look at my last tonic accent. It's O, obviously. You count back 2 syllables. This is where you would start changing the melody on the rest, so on the end of the word. Acceperunt sibi uxores ex omnibus. There's other examples. If if it was at teram, you obviously this is where your tonic accent is. You count back 1, 2. You would start changing the melody here. Nes multiplicari super terram et filias procreasent. So that was a final I sung there. That was the mediant, obviously. So that's how you place them. So if you want to do the Solemn tone ad libitum, you go through your prophecy, and you look. Okay, well, let's say we've already got to here. While you're reading, okay, Disique Deus. This phrase goes all the way to anorum. So I'm going to want to put at least 1 mediant in there. So you could say, okay, I'm going to put my mediant in there at est. So then you would sing, Dixitque Deus non permanebit spiritus meus in nomine in aeternum quia caro est. And how did you know to go down at the quia caro est? Because you looked at where you want to place your mediant here. You look for your last tonic accent. It's not the est, it's not the o, it's the ka. Because a single word doesn't have a tonic accent. So you go back to the next word, and you can't use the final of a word as an accent. So you use this word, this syllable. You can only use the final of a word as a virtual tonic accent if this word was, for example, dominus. Dominus est. Well, then you have to go back. You're not allowed to start changing your mediant on the do of dominus, because then you would have too many syllables for the melody. So you have to do something in the logical rhythm, which is always either binary or ternary. So you're counting back by 2s or 3s when you're placing your tonic accents. So when you count back here to place your tonic accents, when you know this is not 1, here's a second syllable. It could be here technically, but it's the end of a word, so you don't want to place it there, because this holds the real tonic accent, caro. So you put it on the ka. But if it was dominus, then you would count back. You'd say, okay, can't be the est, it shouldn't be the us because it's the final. So then, but then you look back and you see mi of dominus, and you say, well, that's not the tonic accent of the word, because dominus is the tonic accent. You can't have 2 tonic accents next to each other. That's the biggest rule. So you put an intellectual tonic accent on the end of dominus. Dominus est. You could almost say the phrase dominus est, although usually you would say more dominus est. But in singing it, you would have to use that us as your tonic accent. You would start changing 2 syllables before, which would be the syllable before do, which would be the syllable do for dominus. So it would be, if it was a mediant, in aeternum dominus est. You switch to the do. So it's a little bit complicated, but that's how you place your mediants. So in this phrase from the Dixitque Deus, you place your mediant. It's a medium-sized phrase. You could place just 1 here, like we did, which your tonic accent is ka. You go back 2 syllables. You start switching the melody here. Do 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 ti la do 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 quia caro est. And then you do that for the whole piece. Now for really big phrases, or this is even a pretty big phrase, you can add 2 mediants. Once you add 2 mediants, you have to add in a new type of mediant, so it's not the same type of thing. You wouldn't do Dixitque Deus non permanebit spiritus meus in homine in aeternum quia caro est, because then you have the same melody 2 times in a row, the da 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 da. So you actually have two options for your mediant when you have a big phrase. When you have a smaller phrase and you're only putting in one mediant, then you can only use this melody we saw up here. Do 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 ti la do do. If you have several medians, then you have to use this one as well, and you interchange between. You might have 4 medians, and you interchange each time between the flex mediant and the metrum here. So the flex goes down to minor third, so do 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 la venite ad me. And usually before you go down, this last syllable before you go down here is usually a little bit elongated, so you don't do too much. Venite ad me. It sounds like you came to an abrupt stop, so you want to do more. Venite ad me. And of course this one's pointed. And then if we were to apply that to this phrase here, Dixique Deus, you could put a mediant here, the metrum, the flex here. Like here they added something, they added a dot in the ferial tone. This is where you would want to add a flex. So you do Dixique Deus, non permanebit spiritus meus in nomine in aeternum quia caro est, erunque dies ilius centum vinginti annorum. But we didn't go for the final yet, that's the last thing. So big phrases, remember, you can add, if you add more than one mediant, you have to interchange them between each thing. This is kind of an interesting place here. There's a parentheses. I would just go through it all without doing anything, because the final's right here, so you can't do a median right here. Well, it would be, you could, I guess, omnis qui peccaro occuperat viam suam super terram dixita nove. So yeah, it would make sense to do a median here. You wouldn't want to do one anywhere else because it's flowing. Deus terram esse corruptamum. You could do one here actually, because we're switching thoughts. So yeah, that would make sense to do one here. So you would put a flex here. Terram esse corruptam omnis quipe. Like they did here, actually, they put a, or no, they didn't put a dotted note here. Okay. Omnis quipe caro. Yeah, that would make sense to put something here. And so if you're doing interchanging between flex and the larger mediant metrum, then you need to go back and forth, and I believe usually it starts with a flex. Your first mediant would be a flex if you're going back and forth. If there's only one mediant, then you would use the long version, the do ti la do do. Okay, and then in the liber, so for the final, obviously it's do sol la fa. And to place your flex, I forgot to tell you how to place the flex. It's pretty easy. Where you want your flex, where you want to make a cut, this is where their cut is in this case, you count back to your last tonic accent again. It's always in reference to the tonic accent. You count back. Me is not a tonic accent. Ad is not a tonic accent necessarily. So you look before, but this isn't a tonic accent either. So you've already done 3 syllables. It has to be, your tonic accent has to be within at least 3 syllables from your bar. So it has to be somewhere in here. You can't put it on the te because there's the tonic accent right before. You can't put it on the me because that's the very end, so it has to be on the ad. So here's where you place your tonic accent. To put the flex, you look at your last tonic accent, which is the ad, and everything after it, which is either going to be 1 syllable or 2 syllables, as they marked here with the little thing. Everything after it will be on the la, will be a minor third down. So venite ad me, or it could be propter vos de Jacob Jerusalem spiritus est. Right, so this is where your intellectual tonic accent is. You see spiritus est, because this can't be, it's a final. It's the final of stop completely. There's no word after it to continue a rhythm, so you can't put a tonic accent here. you can put an intellectual virtual tonic accent here if the third one before can't have one, which it can't because there's a real tonic accent right here. So that's why they give you all these examples, because there are different rules of finding your tonic accent. Obviously, see here are monosyllabic words, so it's confusing. Here's a word that's has well, anyway. So that's how you place your flexes, and then to place, good grief, where am I? To place your finals for the lesson, tone for the short. Okay, here we are. For the finals, we're almost there. For the finals, it's like this. You look at your last tonic accent. So I want to place my final here. It can't be lac. It could be et. And in this case, it is et. Your last tonic accent here. It is actually written here. This is the tonic sign. It is et because it can't be num, because there's the tonic accent right before. You can't have two tonic accents next to it, and you can't have the tonic accent at the very end. So it has to be et. So you look at this. This is just to place where your melody is going to start changing. You have to locate your final tonic accent. So it's right here. It's on the et. It's a virtual one, and you count back one syllable. So remember, for the mediant, you counted back 2 syllables. For the flex, you didn't count back anything. In fact, everything after it dropped was when it changed. But for the final, you count back 1 syllable from your last tonic accent. And that's when the melody will start changing. In this case, the full stop melody, the final melody, is sol, la, fa. So, do, 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 sol, la, fa. So, if you apply this to the if you apply this to the prophecies, for a final, let's say facti biarcam, you could do a mediant here and a mediant here. So your first mediant would be a flex, second mediant would be the longer one. It wouldn't be at this quarter bar, it would be at this comma. So for your flex, obviously, you have the last tonic accent here. You go down everything after it. So facti biarcam delini levicatis, mansiunculas in arca facies et bitumine linies intrinsecus. For the mediant, of course, you go back to your last tonic accent again. You count back 1 syllable, so that's where you change. Linies intrinsecus. And then for your final, what we just learned, you look at your last tonic accent. It can't be this, obviously. Never the final syllable. It could be this, but it's not, because you have your tonic accent right here, which is 3 before, which is very illicit, and it's the one of the word extrinsecus. So you look at this, and you count back 1 syllable for the final X. So this is where you're going to start changing your melody. So linies intrinsecus et extrinsecus. Right, sorry, I forgot what the melody was. So linies intrinsecus et extrinsecus. Et extrinsecus. So obviously you would hold up a little bit on this last tonic accent, because it's the tonic accent of the word, so you don't want to go through it too quickly. You don't want to do et extrinsecus. You don't want to do et extrinsecus, because then you're putting the accent on the secus, but it's extrinsecus. Et extrinsecus. These words are a little bit tough, so that's why you need to practice. So how you would do this is, on your piece of paper, you should mark. You go through your prophecy first, and you mark. Here's a flex, so you can do whatever sign you want. I personally circle the note where it changes when it's a flex, so I would circle this syllable, so I would know, oh, a circle, that means a flex. Levicatis, I would circle this. Then for a mediant here, I would usually, what my technique is, so we said that melody changes 2 syllables before the tonic accents right here. I would put 1 line under here. I would just underline S of linies. Bitumine linies intrinsecus. Right, so it's not an easy one. And then here, I would put, to prepare your final, I would put the, this is where your note changes, so I would just underline it with 2 lines. So 2 lines for this, for final, that helps me remember. 1 line when it's immediate, and I circle the syllable for the flex. So you do this all the way through your prophecy, and then that's good. And the ending, the ending of the whole prophecy finishes just like you would for any other final for the solemn tone ad libitum, so there's nothing special. You just say, Suavitatis. Okay, so that's it for the solemn tone ad libitum.